Hindi ko alam. Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, Shine.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon. Welcome to Pride at Work. We are Infinite Care. Okay, we'll just show the next slide. Thank you. We are Infinite Care. So we partner with companies to provide employees with access to personalized content, workshops, and online counselors and coaches for their mental health. We at Infinite Care, we believe that poor mental health definitely affects an employee's ability to contribute meaningfully in the workplace. And we encounter, or employees usually encounter different mental health concerns, which may result to absenteeism and presenteeism. And that's why we at Infinite Care, we're proud that we have our platform where your employees and your organizations will have access to tailored solutions, may it be content resources, training, workshops, counseling, and coaching. So, with our platform and with us being Infinite Care, we can share with you different counseling and coaching services, workshops, and trainings. We have different contents and resources as well as insights. Right. So we also have our online counseling and our chat in where you can book our counseling sessions and experience chatting with our mental health responders via the accessibility of your mobile phone or via the website. Okay. So like what I said, we also have our counseling resources, content and resources. Okay. So for this afternoon, we ended the month of June in commemorating Pride Month, right? As a reminder that workplace mental health policies must be recognized and must be cognizant of how different groups are affected by mental health issues. The workplace can be very challenging for anyone, especially during this time of the pandemic with their mental health, right? Struggling with their mental health. So, of course, creating a more inclusive work environment that supports, respects, and protects all employees is definitely an essential component of an LGBTQ plus friendly company culture that would result in improved retention rates, job performance, and productivity. So, this afternoon, our speaker is a training delivery and learning and development professional for almost 10 years. His passion for education and awareness has been instrumental in his contribution to the causes and advocacies of the LGBT community. He's one of the founding members of this company's LGBT resource group, where he leads the talent and development pillar. He's also a member of the partnership and awareness pillar of the Philippine Financial and Inter-Industry Pride, which recently concluded the first Philippine Workplace Inclusion Forum. So let us all welcome Ian Fegalan to help us raise awareness and understanding on how to promote inclusion in the workplace. So good afternoon.
Hi, Shine. Thank you for that
Afternoon.
wonderful discussion introduction. Hi, everyone, and good afternoon. My name's Ian, so I'll be your guest speaker for today. Um, what I'm going to talk about is actually SOGIE one-on-one and the business of inclusion. This is something that is created by the Philippine Financial and Inter-Industry Pride to raise awareness of SOGIE and how it relates to providing a more inclusive workplace and in the business. So some of you might be asking, so who is Philippine Financial and Inter-Industry Pride? So our mission is to create a work environment that is safe and inclusive for the LGBT plus community by networking and sharing best practices and solutions among our member organizations. It is a fairly new network, almost 5 to 6 years. We started out with less than 10 members, and the name of the network before was just Philippine Financial Industry Pride. But as the years go by, we have been receiving clamor for applications that are outside of the financial industry. That's why we changed it, and now it's called Philippine Financial and Inter-Industry Pride to be more inclusive on the member organizations that have applied onwards. So what are the things that you can expect from this course? Understand the interdependence and concepts of sex assigned at birth, gender identity, sexual orientation, and gender expression. We're also, of course, wanting you to understand your own SOGI first. Have a personal reflective journey and understand your own. And then, how can that be related to your true and authentic self in the business, in your workplace, to help contribute to creating a more inclusive workspace? The things that we don't want you to do after walking away from this session would be number one, memorizing the terminologies of the SOGI alphabet, and moreover, memorizing all of the letters of LGBTQQIA plus and so on and so forth. We also don't want you to just go around the room and then just pointing fingers, labeling everyone out because you're so excited of the things that you've learned. We don't want you to do that. What we want you to do is again have a personal, reflective journey and understand your own SOGI to build meaningful connections with others, and in the workplace, help create that more inclusive workplace. In the next screen that I will be showing to you right now, let us first discuss what is diversity and what is the difference of that in inclusion. Type in the chat box, right? And make sure that it is sent to panelists and attendees. Type in the chat box if you feel or if you have thought that diversity and inclusion means the same. Type in same now. I'm gonna go first because I'm one of those who thought that diversity and inclusion are the same words. You can type it in the chat box now. For those who are watching, just have a own reflective journey on what that is. But let's define that here. Diversity. It's the intrinsic and acquired characteristic that makes you unique, that makes you in an individual. And inclusion is creating that environment that welcomes the personality and individualistic persons, no? Diversity, uniqueness, inclusion, the environment. One thing that we actually always use in PFIP to metaphorically describe this would be a quote from Verna Myers. And it says, diversity is being invited to the party, right? Inclusion is being asked to dance, right? So all of us can be attending one grand party because you got the invite. But are you invited to dance? Are you invited to a conversation over a dinner party, perhaps? Those are the things that you need to question in order to delineate what diversity and what inclusion is. Let's do a quick visualization here. So this is what we call the gender-bread person. The gender-bread person is a visualization of understanding one SOGI. My favor to everyone is kindly take a mental note of the icons and what they are labeled. First icon, the brain icon, and it's labeled as the identity. Next, the heart icon, labeled as attraction. And as you can see in the genitalia part, right, it says sex. And did you notice expression? It now encompasses the totality, the outside totality. So please take note of that as we go on this learning journey of what SOGI is. So what is SOGI? SOGI, SO is sexual orientation. GI, gender identity. And the E stands for gender expression. At the end of this course, I also want you to know that regardless if you are a self-identified member of the LGBT community or not, even if you're not part of our community, we all have our own SOGI. SOGI is not just for the LGBT community. So for those of you who are not members of the LGBT community, thank you for attending this session because the first part of understanding and building meaningful connections with everyone is education and awareness. So thank you for that. As we move along our talk for today, the ABCs of LGBTQ. And this has been an outstanding definition journey, not only for our community, but for everyone else. Like people have been telling me, Ian, ang dami namang letters that are being added like from time to time, from generation to generation. And we don't even know what those letters are anymore. Right? So before LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. And now additional letters, que for queer and questioning. I, intersex. A, asexual. P, pansexual. And mind you, the letters get added as the knowledge gets more acknowledged and defined by the community. But if you want to be politically correct, just like what Shine did earlier, you can just use LGBT plus. That's accepted, right? So you can definitely use that. So understanding SOGIE in this module that we created, you will see that there is a line with two arrows, two arrowheads pointing to the left, pointing to the right. We will call this the spectrum, right? And I will always define it in 2 points. So left point, right point, and then in the middle. Let's lay out the foundation of understanding one SOGIE by defining the sex assigned at birth. And it's a very straightforward definition. This is your sex, all right, when you were born, right? So when you were born, if you have an obviously physical male genitalia, then your sex assigned at birth is male. Towards the arrowhead on the right, if you have a female genitalia when you were born, an obviously female genitalia when you were born, then it is a female. That's your sex assigned at birth. Now, did you notice that there's something in the middle? Let's go ahead and define that. Something in the middle is called intersex, meaning these are not only human beings, but creatures that were born with two visible genitalia, both male and female. And some of us might already know there was a different definition, there was a different label of what this was. They called it hermaphrodites before, but now we call it intersex. Now, there's an ongoing debate. Now, if a person is intersex, then how are we going to define the sex assigned at birth? Both are visible nga. The medical professions now, what they use to determine would be the hormonal count instead, and not necessarily the visually identifiable genitalia. All right. So again, sex assigned at birth, male genitalia when you were born, to the left, to the right, female genitalia when you were born, visually um, identifiable. But if you have both, then it's called intersex. All right. Let's move on to the next one, gender identity. All right. For those of you who took a mental note of the gender-bread person, the icon for gender identity is the brain, because the gender identity is your perception of your gender and how it matches your sex assigned at birth. So let's start with the point, with the arrowhead pointing towards the left. These are this gender identity is called cisgender. If your gender perception matches your genitalia, then you are cisgender. Let's say, for example, I am a male when I was born, and when I see, every time I look in the mirror, I see a man. Every time I think of myself, I perceive myself as a man. It matches my perception and my genitalia matches, then I am cisgender. Pointing towards the right, transgender. These people are those that their gender perception, how they see themselves, does not match their genitalia. Let's say, for example, a transgender man. A transgender man, sex assigned at birth is a female genitalia, but his perception when he looks in the mirror, his gender perception, he is a man. The perception and the genitalia does not match. That's why it's called transgenderism. Transgender woman naman, if they were born with a visually identifiable male genitalia, but they perceive themselves as a woman, So transgender woman, right? Cisgender, your perception matches your sex assigned at birth. Transgender, your gender perception does not match your sex assigned at birth. That's how simple it is. Now, let's talk about transsexual. Huh? So transgenderism and transsexuality is just a play on words. Transsexuals are people who are accepted their transitioning. What is transitioning? Transitioning is the process of adopting the characteristics of your gender perception. And it can be social transitioning or medical transitioning, physical transitioning, right? Physical transitioning, for some of you might have already heard this, hormonal replacement therapy, taking pills or IV hormones of your gender, perceived gender, or gender affirmation surgery if you want to fully actualize your gender perception and reassign the sex that was assigned to you at birth. So cisgender and transgender, transsexual. My apologies, but I'm going back one slide here. Sorry for that. So, all right. There is a thing called gender dysphoria. And gender dysphoria is that perception when you perceive yourself differently from your sex assigned at birth. Before, it was deemed as a psychological illness, right? That's why in the States, I believe there were a lot of gay conversion therapy because they think that if you see yourself other than that what was assigned to you at birth, it was a psychological condition. But now it has been taken off by the list of mental illnesses. It is not a psychological condition anymore. It is a natural human reaction, gender dysphoria. That's why if you're a transgender person, if you want to transition, right, there is a gender dysphoria assessment just to make sure that you are prepared physically and also mentally for your transitioning. Right. Some of you might also be wondering, Ian, there's somewhere in the middle again. Yeah, there will always be somewhere in the middle of the spectrum. Some of you might have heard, let's see what's in the middle, non-binary, right? So non-binary people, okay, they don't want to label their perception limited to their sex assigned at birth. So they don't want to be labeled as cisgender. They don't want to be labeled as transgender. Okay. And non-binary people, because they feel that there's more to being one male or one female. That's why the pronouns that they use are they, them, their. Right. Some also call them genderqueer, two-spirit, and gender fluid. Some of you might be asking, Iyan, ano ba yun? Are they confused? No, they're not. Actually, being binary is accepting that you are not confused, right? Accepting that you are non-binary is a psychological acceptance that you don't want to be limited by your gender perception to your sex assigned at birth. Right. But that doesn't invalidate naman people like us who know our gender identity and how it is matching with our sex assigned at birth. Moving on to the next topic, right? Gender expression, right? Can someone remember what was the icon of the gender expression? It encompasses the totality of the outsideness of the genderbread person earlier. So again, gender expression towards the left arrowhead, masculinity. If you express yourself in the standards of masculinity, right? So let's say, for example, through your clothing, yan, ano ba yung masculine standards for clothing, right? So polo, right? Oversized clothes, like boots and all that. Then masculinity is your expression. Femininity, if it's towards the feminine standard of clothing, expression, and mannerism. Now, there are people who expresses both, right? Some people are, let's say, for example, men are now more accepting of the pastel colors, right? Pink colors, purple, right? Now, more and more women, like when you go to the office, your power dressing is a man's coat, right? Some of our women leaders wear coat and tie, right? And Again, these are just expression, right? Expressing yourself. So for people who does both, we call them androgynous. Now, so very androgynous fashion or very androgynous mannerism, very androgynous gender expression. Okay. Your gender expression is heavily rooted in your gender identity, on how you see yourself. Remember, gender identity is your perception of your gender, how you see yourself, and no one can dictate that. Okay. And did you notice, guys? So SOGIE is just three topics: sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. And I'm almost done with gender expression. We're already down with two topics, one left. Did you notice I haven't used the words gay, homosexual, right? Or for our Filipino friends here, tomboy or bakla? Because your gender identity and gender expression does not directly dictate your sexual orientation. Your expression does not dictate your gayness. Your expression, your how you wear your, if you're a woman, how you wear your baggy clothes, how you wear your like all black attire will never dictate if you're a lesbian, right? If you're a guy and you wear like tight fitting clothes, you like wearing pink or purple, that will never dictate your gayness. I'm strategically pausing because I want you to absorb that. Your expression is not directly affecting your sexual orientation. Let's put that to the test. Right? So I'm just jumping with some of the words that that we've already talked about. So let me test your understanding so far. Please look at the guy on the left. Okay, this is Mark Bryan, right? Notice that he is wearing women's clothes. The heels, which are fabulous, by the way. Just look at the shoes. The heels are fabulous. He's wearing skirt, tight fitting skirt, if I might add. I don't know if you can do it, but if you can, please chat on the chat box. Um, do you think that Mark is gay? Is Mark gay, or what do you think of Mark? Does someone here think that Mark is gay? Like, don't worry. All of your answers are, this is a safe space for learning. Let's see what your perceptions are. Yan, no? Ang ganda ng suot ni Mark, right? Let's see. Ayan. All right. So, very good to those who said that. You know why? Right? You know why? So, Shine, Lorraine, Joshua, thank you for answering that. Derek and Nina also. No, remember, how you express yourself will never dictate if you're gay, right? And I think if you answer, I don't know, Ian, because I can tell if he's gay just by his expression, that could have been the most absolute correct answer of all. Who are we to label Mark as gay just because of what we see? Remember, your gayness is your business. Your sexual orientation is your business. And the correct answer is Mark Bryan actually went viral because number one, he is straight. He is married with 3 kids, right? He is not a homosexual. He would just like to push the boundaries of understanding masculinity and how it is not dictated by your clothing. Right. Just search him on Google. Mas marami pa siyang fabulous outfits versus this. All right. Now, if you look at the right, now this is a female actress, an award-winning actress, Tilda Swinton. For those of you who know Tilda Swinton, she is known for wearing androgynous clothes, no? And not just wearing androgynous clothes, but playing androgynous characters. The most recent one, I believe, is Doctor Strange, where her head is shaved, right? She was also one of my favorite characters in Constantine. I know that's a lumang movie already. I may have outed my age with that movie, no? But she played an angel, and I believe it was Angel Gabriel or Raphael. I'm not sure, but how she portrayed it was very androgynous. And so again, thank you for those who answered. Very good. Good job. You know, how you express yourself is not directly linked to your sexual orientation, which we will be discussing right now.
Yeah.
So,
Ian, we have here a
sorry.
question. No, I
Sure.
just saw it here in the chat while you were asking about Mark Bryan. Somebody's asking here, I'm curious of how these expressions can affect dress codes or etc. Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
question. Sorry, I think I was on mute for a while.
Mm-mm.
I don't want to generalize all of the companies in the Philippines, but I believe some Western countries are more advanced in gender expression, especially in clothing in the workplace. I believe that some companies will now state there that regardless of your chosen masculinity or femininity as your clothing, it would still follow the dress code. Like, let's say, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if the company is more conservative, like if you choose to dress femininely, then you cannot wear like revealing clothes, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe what ano nga ba yung tawag sa transparent, see-through transparent, see-through
Mm-mm.
clothes, right? Or the
Mm-mm.
cleavage is too low or the slit
Right.
is too high.
Too high.
So I hope that I don't have data in the Philippines, but I hope that for you here who are decision makers in the company, um, letting your employees dress according to their expression is the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, but when it comes to dress code policy, if they choose to wear, you know, let's say for example, pag panlalaki, we don't ask them to wear sleeveless, right? So if that's their chosen gender expression, then the dress code policy will follow kung ano yung under, like if it's masculine or feminine.
Yeah. All right.
I hope that
Thanks.
answers the question.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, let's continue. Shine. All right. So now, sexual orientation. Okay, this is the most talked about topic in SOGIE. So sexual orientation, if you can, for those of you who took a mental note, this is the icon for this is the heart, because sexual orientation is dictated by who you are attracted to. Ayan. That's why the icon is the heart. So pointing towards the left, heterosexuality, or what we popularly known as straight, meaning um, these people are exclusively attracted to the opposite sex. If you're a male, you are exclusively attracted to female. If you're a female, you're exclusively attracted to male. Yung exclusive is the operative word, ha? Next, towards the right, homosexuality. These are the people who are exclusively attracted to the same sex. All right. So gay man, if you're a man who's exclusively attracted to another man, and then lesbian women who are exclusively attracted to women, and I'm sure that you already know who the people are in the middle, and they are bisexuals and pansexuals. Now, bisexuality, right, is a person who ida-drop na natin yung operative word na exclusive, because they can be attracted to the opposite sex and they can be attracted to the same sex. Now, for those of you who don't know what pansexuality is can be attracted to anyone and everyone. Yeah. For those of you who are photography fans here, I believe that you use it for panoramic shots, right? That's why pan here, like you have a wider view of who you are attracted to. Ayan. And did you notice when I define sexual orientation, did I mention anything about clothing? Did I mention anything about your love of colors? Did I mention anything about your flicker of the hand, right? The intonation, the voice? Nothing. Sexual orientation is who you are attracted to. All right. So that is the whole spectrum for sexual orientation. But I don't know if you've heard of this term. We call it asexual, outside of the spectrum. Now, asexuality is a new knowledge. It's a new condition that is still the dynamism of knowledge of asexuality is still ongoing. It is outside of the spectrum. The main foundation and definition for asexuality is for people who are not attracted to anyone. Yeah. So that is asexuality. Okay. And I will tell you, for asexual people, these are people who can be attracted to you, okay, to anyone, but they don't want to elevate that attraction to a sexual attraction, right? And some of you might ask, Ian, what attraction are we talking about in order to define my sexual orientation? Is it sexual attraction, right? Meaning, what is the act of that attraction? Having sex. Or are you talking about attraction, Ian, like romantic, okay? Building romantic relations that is not dictated only by having sex. Then why don't we compartmentalize that? So another version of sexual orientation is romantic orientation. All right. So pointing towards the left, we call them heteroromantic people, meaning these are people who are exclusively, all right, they exclusively want to build romantic relationships with the opposite sex. Homoromantic people, they want to exclusively build romantic relationships to the same sex. Biromantic, okay, they can build romantic relationships to both hetero and homos. And for panromantic, they can build romantic relationships to everyone. Now, why am I showing you this? Why am I compartmentalizing that? And I'm going to share with you a very personal story here. I have a friend, he is straight, he's been married for 25 years, and he has 3 kids. Some of them almost ka-age ko na. All right. But then, one time when we were having like a drinking session, pre-pandemic, bawal na kasi yan. Pre-pandemic, he he opened up to me that and he know that I'm openly openly gay. He told me, Ian, honestly, I've had sexual relations with men before. And then he asked me, so what am I? Am I already a homosexual? Then for me, if I haven't attended any of the SOGIE session, I might say, I think friend, yes. But now with all of these education and awareness that I've been reading up on, I asked him a few questions. First one is, do you still love your wife? Then he said yes. Do you think that with these men that you had sex with, that you want to build a romantic relationship with them? And then he was very adamant. He said, no, never. Maybe just for the sex. So looking at this slide right here, if my friend's answer is like that, then we can consider him as a hetero romantic because he is a man who is exclusively wanting to build relationships with the opposite sex, which is his wife. But he can be a bisexual because he keeps on having sex with his wife, but sometimes from time to time he has sexual relationships with the same sex. So heteroromantic, but he is also bisexual because sexual relationships. Yeah. So this is a bit of a stretch version of sexual orientation. But if you just want to, if you just want to make it simple, we can just stick to the definition that I shared with you earlier regarding attraction, on who you are exclusively attracted to or not. Yeah. That is actually the end of SOGIE definition of SOGI and GE. And I have a quick activity here so that let's see if and let's take on that personal reflective journey on your SOGI. Okay. On the next slide that I'm going to be showing, sorry, andyan yung ano ko, icon. The next one that I'm going to be showing, not the LGBT alphabet. Sorry if I keep on skipping, but I'm excited for this activity. All right. So these are all of the spectrums of the topics that I discussed, right? In your own space right now, if you have a digital post-it, notepad, or if you're an old school person like me who still wants to write in the notebooks, you can recreate these visuals in your own notebook or digital notebook, and let's take a personal journey and understand our own SOGI. And I will help you. I'll take myself as an example. I hope I can annotate. So I'll annotate. I will use a star stamp. All right. So sex assigned at birth, when I was born, I have visibly physical male genitalia. So my star is towards the left. Yeah, sex assigned at birth is male. And you can do this on your own, no? Let's do this together. Do it on your own. My gender identity. Gender identity is how your gender perception matches your sex assigned at birth. So my sex assigned at birth is a male genitalia, and my gender perception, my gender identity, I still see myself as a man. I don't see myself as a woman. So my gender perception matches my sex assigned at birth. So I am a cisgender. But again, if your gender perception does not match your sex assigned at birth, then you go towards the right, transgender. Gender expression, yes, I'm mostly masculine, but there are times that I wear skirts, right? Even in public, because I like that. There are, and nakakaingit kasi ang daming magagandang skirts ng mga women, di ba? So I like to express myself like that too. Sometimes I wear heels, my sandals, I have jelly sandals. I don't know if that's still a thing, no? Kanina ko pa ina-out yung age ko. So my bags, so I have handbags too. So, but not too feminine. So maybe a little bit of both. So I'm in the middle. My expression is androgynous. Yeah. And as you can see, my flicker of the hand, my tone of voice, it's not too hard. It's a bit feminine too. So androgynous. Now, sexual and romantic orientation. I am exclusively attracted to the same sex. So I am a homosexual man. I'm gay. So my star stamp is towards the right. Ayan. So for those of you who are not members of the LGBT community and you were able to answer this, I hope that proves to you that everyone has their own SOGI. Yan. If you're able to understand that, then na-check na natin yung goals for this course for today, understanding your own SOGI. Okay. All right. And for those of you who are brave enough to share that with us, thank you very much for bravely sharing that. I hope that by understanding this, that you will have build more meaningful connections. Yeah. Now that we have a familiarization of what SOGI is, let's see how will that translate to the workplace. And let me just pull out my annotate button here. All right. Now, is SOGI a workplace issue? Not necessarily an issue, right? But understanding SOGI and making sure that your employees express themselves as their true and authentic self can prove that there will be increase in revenue. Because if one is understanding their own authentic self, masipag yan, right? They will always try to do their best, right? And if they feel that they are in a safe space, especially for us LGBT community, every time that we want to go and apply for another job, that's one thing that we always look at, the company culture. And if I feel that I am already safe in this company, then why do I need to leave, right? Right? And some of that you can already see here. Of course, reduced cost, right? Reduced turnover cost, reduced hiring cost, training cost, and all that, right? So those are very obvious answers if SOGI is a workplace issue. But again, there is there's deeper issues that are underlying here. But we're not to uncover that and unravel that today. We just want you to understand. Just by understanding SOGI can really help creating a workplace inclusion. Next, what are the prevalent challenges in LGBT plus inclusion? Some people are afraid to come out in the workplace because I don't know, some of my friends, no, Ian, I don't want to come out in my current workplace because I'm up for promotion. Huh? Oh, why is that? Right? It saddens me. No, I'm not saying my company is perfect, right? And I'm not saying that, there are companies who are better than the other, right? But basis for promotion, sexual orientation, I think that's too late already. Like 3 decades ago na yan. Diba? Especially, and let's celebrate, no? And if we go out of LGBT, let's celebrate. There are now women in power. That's something to celebrate, right? Women in power, women leadership. That's something that we are always proud of, right? If we can do that with gender, with the opposite gender, with women, that can pave the way for LGBT employees as well, right? Some challenges in the workplace, misgendering, gender expression niya, let's say especially for transgender women, gender expression niya very feminine. Tapos i-greet ka ni guard. Hi sir, good morning. Right? Or pag tinama mo na, can you please call me ma'am? Sir, hindi pwede. Your ID says a very male name like Pedro perhaps. Sorry if there's a Pedro in the room. I just needed to use that an example. Right? Misgendering. Right? These are just some examples of prevalent challenges in the workplace. If you are a decision maker, if you have the capacity, right? If you have that power and you're an ally of the community, we need your support. We need your help, right? We don't expect to aggressively change company procedures overnight. But here are some examples on what are the things that you can do to make a difference. Assess your language at work. Use preferred terms like LGBT, gay, lesbian, sexual orientation, right? I'm going to be a bit more cultural here, no, for us Filipinos, right? Um, the word bakla has been bastardized too much already when it should only be defined as being a gay man, right? If natatakot ka, if you're scared, 'di ba? The word bakla is now loosely coined to depict if someone is a coward, right? And for those of you who are culturally, those who love culture, that's an insult to our culture already. For those who are our friends here who are Bisaya, right? The word bayot has been bastardized too much. It's a beautiful word. It's a beautiful language, right? Not because I'm Bisaya. I'm not from, the Bisaya, but I'm from Romblon. We have a different Bisaya word. But the word bayot has been bastardized too much. Do we have BTS armies in the room here who loves BTS? Yung recent issue, right? Hashtag BTS Bayot. Oh, that's a great example of expression. They are just wearing, pastel colors, women, very women colors, no? And they always color their hair. Just because of that, we call them bayot. Diba? Right? It's fashion. And who are we to dictate their sexuality based again on their gender expression? Going back to the workplace, sorry for that, implementing no-cost benefits like, I'm glad someone asked about the dress code policy, letting them dress according to their gender identity, but still outlining, the policy per gender expression. Allowing transgender employees to use the restroom of the gender they identify with. And lastly, for those of you who are here who are not members of the LGBT community, but you signed up for this webinar because you want to be educated, I am forever thankful for people like you because that tells me that being an ally, educating yourself is the first step to helping us with our cause. Okay, I'm not being political here, but people like you who want to be always educated and aware, that can really help. Your voice will always help our platform. Right? Yeah. So before we try to have a reflection of what are our key takeaways, maybe we can already open the floor for some questions because I think there's a lot
Yeah.
of questions in the chat box. Shine, no?
Oo, there are a lot, yan. And I think this talk of yours was very informative and enlightening to everyone, no? So can I read the first question? Yan.
Yes po. Sure.
I think this is something that was just is a concern or was raised now that coming from a Muslim community setting, it is an issue that people try to avoid and hide. Yeah. So thank you for sharing this to us, Roel. Yeah. And then for the question, how can we address wearing of uniform for a strict school administration on its uniform policy? Further, our
I
gays prefer wearing female uniforms, vice versa. So that's the question.
And not only that, no, Shai, no, because for me, I came from a all the way Catholic schools, elementary, and then high school, parochial school
Mm-hmm.
pa ako. Katabi
Yeah.
mismo namin the church, no, and very strict, no. And then I graduated from UST.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Which is
my
also
that's my
very
undergrad. Catholic, di ba?
Catholic, no?
Exactly. And this is a very controversial question, no? And I'm not sure how to answer that. Like, how can we address that? Because the wearing of uniform is rooted in the very patriarchal society. It's a very patriarchal culture. Well, if you try to research the reason behind uniform, it's about discipline. It's about discipline and branding. But I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe throughout the years, because it has been dictated by other interpretations. So
Mm-hmm.
Estelito, if you're going to answer me, this is just going to be a very personal answer, not representing anyone, no. Honestly, I don't know because that would still be in the hands of the administrators. But one thing that I can suggest perhaps is I hope that administrators of schools will now accept that there are people who would like to express themselves differently.
Yeah.
And how do they do that? Maybe anong first step siguro ng Shine? Attending sessions like this,
Right, right.
researching,
Mm-hmm.
educating yourself, and being aware. And again, we don't want you to immediately aggressively change, policies and procedures, but perhaps understanding what it is first could be very helpful.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
true. That's there. You really have to start from somewhere. No, you really have to be.
Correct.
You have to have that education. You have to understand what it is before you can truly, apply it in the workplace or apply it in your personal life, right? Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
Another question we have, Ian, is that companies who are not ready for this, especially in Muslim communities in Mindanao, try to defend their stance by using culturally sensitive weapon to curtail other expressions, no? So they perceived immoral daw. Sabihin nila, okay, magiging culture sensitive tayo or ka naman.
Correct.
How do we address
Exactly.
these, no, Ian? Like here in the Philippines, like what you've mentioned about yung sa terminology, yung Bisaya, I'm also Cebuana, by the way, no? So,
Paano?
oh, diba? So how do we address that? Like, what is something that we can start doing in our own communities also? For example, what Roel was sharing to us.
Correct. I Well, my answer for that would be, I'm going to quote one of my professors. He is in graduate school. He is a Toastmasters fellow, and he
Mm-hmm.
said when it comes to arguments like this, we call them verbal judo. No, so how do you combat verbal judo? Number one, do not take it head on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, try to use their own language and assess it and do not immediately contradict or conflict it. What you want to do is try to ask them to understand your own point of view, and the language could be somewhere like this. No, I'm not saying that I'm culturally insensitive, but I can take a look at how I use my words to present my own definition of my sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
How would you like to maybe engage in a discussion? Would you like us to research this together? I know that's a long shot, Ruel. In reality, I know that's a long shot, right? There are people who would always oppose. But for me, as an education professional, it will always come down to that, awareness, research, teach yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and education.
Mm-hmm.
Yan.
All right, that's true. Okay, and we have another question, no, Ian, pertaining again to the workplace. If what if your workplace is not yet ready to embrace a more open-minded setup? Like, because I think we have companies like that still in the Philippines, right?
Right.
How can we, or I as a coworker, for example, can help champion this, right? To be an
Maybe
ally, to put this out there and to be an advocate of it, right? In your own workplace, what is something that has helped you?
maybe not necessarily in our own workplace, but something that I have seen as a trend.
Mhm.
And this is something that we should accept. No, in the Philippines, although homosexuality, we're all it's being tolerated, no, and being
Mhm.
tolerating and accepting are two different terms.
Right.
You know, people might be tolerating it, but accepting is not. So a lot of Filipino companies are still being very conservative. But if there are people inside those companies who want to champion these, um, number one, always be vocal and open with your management team. I believe accepted lahat, and I think it's a common practice, Shine, no, for all companies, local or international. There will always be like focus group discussions, you know,
Right.
just to see what people, how people are what the people wants, no, for the company. Use those wisely, you know, and I believe regular yan, no? If not quarterly,
Mm-mm.
siguro biannual, right?
Mm-mm.
Use those wisely and champion causes like that, you know. And
Right.
if you feel that your company is very, very traditional and conservative, then wag nyo namang biglain, no? Wag naman na pumasok kayo in that FGD in your discussion now
Mm-hmm.
wearing rainbow flags, right? You know, with activist cards and all that, no? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
start somewhere, like just what Shine said, you know, everything starts somewhere. You know, assess the environment of your work, assess the pulse also of the employees, no, and see how these types of things like causes, forwarding causes can help.
Right.
Siguro start again by awareness and education and then build your case, no? What are the things that having a network like this can do? Perhaps a survey, or you know,
Mm-hmm.
checking the
Mm-hmm.
pulse, but use those focus group discussions that are hosted by the management team wisely. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that could be an open forum or a voice. If you get turned down the first time, should you stop? Maybe
Of course
pahinga ng
not.
onte.
Oh.
Correct. Then try it again next time, no? Not to the
Yes.
point naman that you get terminated
Or
because
you
of
have memos
kakulitan.
na, no? Or you get,
Correct.
you get issued a memo
Or
kasi push ka ng push, no?
correct. No? So
Yeah.
maybe and again, the battle for equality is not just centered on the LGBT community,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's
That's
for
true.
different gender, yeah, for women also, different races, right?
Mm-hmm.
For people who are, you know, in the city life and the
Mm-hmm.
provincianos, and that's a
That's true.
different topic, no?
Mm-hmm.
There's a different inclusion issue in the workplace with that, right? What else? Gender, race, political beliefs, and religion. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
championing for causes like this will always be a long battle, and we have to accept
Mm-hmm.
that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
let's not be very aggressive, maybe assertive, but not very aggressive to the fact
Aggressive.
that it will
Yeah.
always be opposed. You know, um, let's be smart about it and educate ourselves.
That's
Ayan.
true. And then we also have here, like somebody said, that it starts with friends. No, it starts with the closest community that we share time, we share our time with, right? Just so we'll have that same, ano ba, parang same wavelength, no? Yung understanding and acceptance, right? So it starts with the friends. Okay. And then there's also one here, no, expanding our horizons, right? Tolerating difference and appreciating diversity. Thank you for sharing this with us, Mark. It's beautiful. And it's we have to be open to this, right? This is something that
Exactly.
I think at this point, no, napaka ano na natin, napaka diverse na natin, and we have to have that compassion and understanding and openness to everyone, no? Yeah.
Correct. I think well, it's still 5:27. I'm going to forward a thought here, no. Um, Perhaps not just limited to the LGBT community, but having a diverse team, no?
Mm-hmm,
If you
mm-hmm.
are part of if your role in the company, gives you a chance in hiring people. Kunwari, ikaw yung hiring manager, you have the last say in it. You know, try to hire someone that is very different from you, not just with gender, not just with sexuality, but maybe into different strategy techniques, different different views. No, always have
Mm-hmm.
that someone, because, well, number one, hindi para magkaroon ka ng sakit ng ulo to manage that person, but that person who is different will always have a fresh view on something. That
Yeah,
person will always keep you on your toes. And that's already diversity and inclusion. And
that's true.
that tip is not centered on LGBT, right? It's just centered on the skills and aptitudes of that
A person, an
applicant, perhaps
individual.
that
Yeah.
person. Correct.
Mm, right. And we have questions pa, Ian. We have time pa for questions, no?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes po.
okay.
I think with 2 minutes.
Yeah, we have another question here. How about for families, Ian? Where our families were sort of medyo close-minded in terms of culture, in terms of being so patriarchal, for example, wherein binubugbog, no? And they don't allow anything or accommodate anything outside the binary. How do we
Grabe
help
to, no?
them? Oh, and it's still actually happening, no? I still have clients who go
Exactly.
through that when I do my counseling, and families, I still witness that. How do we help them face their families? Like
Sure.
ikaw on your
Uh,
end. Mm-mm.
yeah. Number one, I don't mean to be a very judgmental person here, no, but parents, how can you have the heart to hurt your own, 'di ba? Just
Mm-hmm.
because their perceived sexuality is not your own. I know I would never understand that. The
Yeah.
closest thing for me of being a parent, I'm a very hands-on uncle to my 6-year-old niece and 2-year-old niece, no? But I know that I will never have that level of perception as a parent. But hurting someone, I think that's very, sobrang extreme na, no?
Mm-hmm.
Although ako naman, napalo naman ako nung bata, pero yung bugbog, hindi
Yeah.
naman, no?
Or
So, to
bugbog
answer
because, 'di ba? This
of
is your
sexuality,
preference. This is how you express yourself. I think that's way beyond, no? Mm-hmm.
correct, no? And to answer that question, no, how will you help them to face their families?
Families.
That will always be a very difficult conversation for the family, and that will always be a very difficult journey for if this is your friend, no?
Yeah.
Perhaps just like what I think it was Ruel who said, always have that close knit relationship with friends who can be your support system.
Right.
There will never be a formula, an absolute formula to
Mm-hmm.
end closed mindedness within families. But in textbook definition, how do you address closed mindedness? It would still boil down to education, awareness, and research.
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
it's iba na pag pinag-uusapan na, 'di ba, Shine? It's going to be
Yeah.
different na, Jerry, no? If it's already in person. What
Mm-hmm.
I can say, perhaps, personally, we can't change kung ano yung ano ng family, no? But there are success stories,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
Shine, ay, in
Mm-hmm.
social media
Yeah.
na change yung ano ng family. Siguro,
Mm-hmm.
number one, have a close-knit relationship with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, as long as you prove to your parents that you're not doing anything wrong, right? Alam mo yung ayokong naririnig yung isa pa, Shine, and this is very personal to me, no? Yung sayang bakla kasi. Ano ba
Yeah.
yan? Sayang
Yeah.
tomboy kasi, no? Parang graduate
Oo.
ka pa, let's say for example, no, graduate ka pa naman ng UP. Kaso
Mm.
sayang, bakla ka kasi.
Yeah.
Ano pong kinalaman ng pagkabakla ko with me
Totoo.
finishing my degree, in one of the
Totoo.
prestigious universities? So
Right.
going back to that question, Jerry, I don't think that there's an absolute formula for that.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Mm-hmm.
have a close knit relationship. If you can't find that in your own family, then maybe your second family as with your friends.
Yeah.
Or number two, if this is a question for your friend, always provide that support and
Mm-hmm.
acceptance.
That's true. On my end naman, no, Ian, I think we always have to remember that in the journey, yes, you come from your family has nurtured you, and that's our first love because we grew up, we have our parents and our siblings, but in the end, it's also our decision on how we want to live our lives, right? What are the relationships we want to build later on? If in the long run, having that opportunity to express yourself, or being a being open about who you are, and it's difficult for your family to accept that, but you also have to think twice as to what's your end goal, what's the journey, and whose life are you living for
I love
in
that.
the end, right? Because it is your life, and eventually, eventually, if your family is really, I mean, if you have that close knit relationship, or if your family is, um, you and your family are close and you get to have conversations like that, I always tell people that sometimes you don't even have to explain yourself so much to people or to friends, because they will definitely accept you with no questions, because that's what
Correct.
families, that's what friends are supposed to be, right? And in the
Correct.
end, if they are ready, right, to have that communication again, to be with you again, then that will happen. But bottom line there is, you think for yourself, you think what is best for you and where your happiness will be. That doesn't mean naman na you're disrespecting your family, your parents,
Yeah,
by being
correct.
who you are, because we have
Or
that na.
disowning them, right?
Oo, 'di ba? Wala namang gano'n eh. It's all about finding who you are also as a person. It doesn't mean when you do that, it doesn't mean you're dissing off family or you're cutting off relationships, right?
Nice, right.
So find that. Yeah, find that within yourself, no?
I love that. And Lorraine, no, also posted here. Thank you for
Mm,
posting this, no. That's a great affirmation. Having a gay child does not mean that you failed as a parent, but disowning
exactly.
them, right?
Oo.
Yun.
Yeah,
Right,
and you
right.
know what? For parents also, I think we shouldn't have that yung line kasi na,
Mm,
okay, just tell me what you are, or tell me your sexual preference, and I will love you
isa pa
no
yan.
matter what. 'Di ba? We shouldn't
Correct.
be using that word na, I will love you no matter what. Because what is
Correct.
that? 'Di ba? What does that connote na just because hindi siya yung inexpect mo maging anak mo, maging, 'di ba, maging tao, it you tell her that, 'di ba? But parang hindi
Right.
siya dapat ginagawa or sinasabi,
Correct.
no?
Or ito, Shina, something that I'm sure. And I know that we're more than the time, but if you still want to listen to us, I love insightful discussions like this. Okay pa ba, Shine? Mag-share lang ako,
Yeah,
no?
yeah, sure. Oo.
So ito pa, no? Yung when it comes to parenting here, no, just like what Shine said, tell me who you are. Hindi pwede
Hmm.
yon. Someone's coming out, and I have a different term for that, no? Someone's of self-realization. Yan, pwede yun, no? Someone's realization or acceptance of who they are is nobody's business, no? Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin sa
Yeah.
anak mo yun na, ano ka ba talaga? Kasi
Oo.
imagine, no, especially for gay kids, they don't know what's happening. They don't understand these things yet. And imagine the psychological battle that they're waning inside, right? And
Mhm,
here
mhm.
tayo as parents na pipilitin natin sila mag-come out. Mahirap yon. Next pa
Yes.
siya, no? Again, expression. What if Ian, what if my child, what if I have a boy, my kid is a boy, and sabi niya parang, Mommy, can you please buy me Barbie? Ayoko kasi
Yeah.
pang pababae yun.
Mm,
'Di ba? Parang,
mm.
so I know that is very, very culture, very Filipino culture yun, no? Parang,
Mhm.
ano naman kung gusto nung bata mag-Barbie, hindi mo na pwedeng
Yeah.
sabihin na dahil gusto niya mag-Barbie, bakla agad siya. Ako nga hindi,
Mhm.
me ha, I'm an openly gay man, but I didn't play Barbie when I was a
Mhm,
kid,
mhm. Yeah.
no? That will, again, expression. Kasi mali mo creative lang pala si Bagets, right?
Yes.
Exactly. Let's say for example naman pag mga babaeng bata, and I'm now happy because I see that there are lots of parents who are exposing their kids to yung male dominated sports,
Yeah.
taekwondo,
Yeah.
judo, jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
Basketball, football
Mm.
and all that. 'Di ba? That does not dictate the sexuality of your child. 'Di
Mhm.
ba?
Mhm.
Siguro ang maano ko lang doon as parents, no, then let's just let them be. Malay mo yun pa yung maging creative journey niya, no? Yan. So yun, na-share ko lang,
Mhm.
Shine.
Oo, and makes a lot of sense, no, Ian? Who are we to hinder or to block our kids or our nephews or nieces, no, to be who they want to be also, right?
Correct.
Later on. So yeah.
Mm.
All right. So I think we don't have any more questions here. And we would like to thank everybody who sent out their questions, who shared, and for being with us in this very insightful talk this afternoon. I've personally learned a lot, Ian, and I'm sure all of you have learned so much. And I hope that we can bring our insights, our learnings this afternoon to our own homes and to our own workplaces. And let us all be allies, not in promoting equality and gender equality in our workplaces, in our homes. All right. So, Ian, any last word from you?
Ay, ako lang naman sa I'm always well, kasi I'm not an activist of sort, no, but this is my
Mhm.
contribution to the community. I use my skills, no. And thank you very much for those of you who were brave enough to ask those questions and to share your insights, no. We can contribute to the community in different levels. No, it doesn't
Right.
always have to be fight, 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 and all that, no. But webinars like this is already contributing to the community.
Mhm. Mhm.
Last words lang. If you have any questions that you are, embarrassed to ask in a webinar like this or a session like this, I can share naman my LinkedIn account to them. Shine,
Yes,
you don't
please. Yes,
mind that?
please,
All right.
Ian. Not at
I'm
all.
going to
Mm-mm.
post it here on the chat box. Reach out to me through my LinkedIn account. If you have any questions that I can answer, I'll definitely answer through that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ian. And for those of you who want to start putting up initiatives in your workplaces on how we can be more inclusive, on how we can be more allies in the LGBT community, feel free to reach out also to us at www.infinitecare.com. You can check us out via our Facebook page, that's Infinite Care, and reach out to us, and we will be very happy to help you put up your mental health initiatives, to help you with your LGBTQ um, guidelines also, no, for workspaces. So there, thank you so much, everybody, and I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. So weekend, and Ian, maraming maraming salamat for gracing us with your knowledge this afternoon. We truly learned a
Welcome.
lot. So thank you so much. In behalf of Infinite Care, we thank you, Ian, and we thank you, everybody, for being with us. All right. So
Welcome. Thank you,
thank
everyone.
you. For those who would want to receive their certificates, e-certificates, we would like for you to please answer our evaluation survey or a survey form.
Survey.
Okay. All right. So there. Can we post it here, please, in our chat? There you go. So it's there. All you have to do is click into this link, and then there. So you can answer it. So again, maraming salamat, Ian. Maraming salamat, everyone. Have a restful weekend. Paalam.